So in order to find the average rate of change, we're going to use these formulas in the following ways. Let's not forget that finding the average rate of change is simply another way or another name for the slope. Now, again, if you were able to print these notes off before class, that's awesome. If not, you can take these down in a notebook. I don't know if you have to write everything down, but maybe just what I write down in marker, all right? So exercise number 1 says the function f of x is graphed below. So that is already done for us. The average rate of change between the following points needs to be found. We got to make sure we show calculations for our answer. I'm still getting a lot of papers that have just the answer on it. I cannot give that credit because I need to see your thought process, see what you're doing. So make sure that you're showing work when you're submitting the assignments. For this question, we are going to use the following x values. We're going to use an x value of -2 and an x value of 3. So they kind of give us like little hints here. We need 2 points. We have been told the x values. We need to come up with the y values. Where would we get those? We go to the graph. So let's go over to the graph. If this is 0, all right, the origin, remember we always start there, I would go 2 to the left for the x value of -2. Now there's nothing here, okay? I got to show you something. There's nothing here, but it does make a nice little point right there in which the x value is -2 and the y value is down 3 for -3. So I have found the y value for -2. I got to do the same thing for x value of 3. So I'm going to start at 0 and count 1, 2, 3. And this time it's right on the x-axis. So 3 is the x. That makes 0 the y. So I've got the 2 points that I need to complete this formula. What formula am I talking about? That slope formula. y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. Okay? Now, let's not forget that these always come as an ordered pair, meaning an x and a y. What about the little numbers that we've got? Well, which one comes first? Okay, this point comes first, so we give it little ones. This point comes second, so we give it little twos. And that's all that means. All right, first point, second points. Okay, so if you have questions, please feel free to unmute. I've answered the question about taking notes several times. You can either print off the blank copy and write these down with us, or you can use a notebook to write these down, but you don't have to write everything down, maybe just what I'm writing in marker, okay? Jonah, did you hear what I was saying, bud? Is your audio on, Jonah? Okay, well then you should be hearing what I'm saying. Please keep the public chat clear for questions right now. I only need to know if there are questions, because if not, it's taking my attention away from being able to get through class. All right, next up, we want to put these into the formula, okay? So we've got y2 minus y1. So y2 is 0 and y1 is -3. So I'm subtracting a negative. So I have to have 2 negative signs or 2 subtraction signs, however you want to think of it. And then we've got x2 minus x1. So I want to do this as 3 minus, and again, a -2. So a double negative. Now we all know how a double negative works. It's simply adding. So 0 plus 3 is 3, and 3 plus 2 is 5. Okay? So that's how you would use the formula to find the slope. And now's the part where you get really, really mad at me, okay? Because I try to put it all together. Average rate of change, slope. Why didn't you just count the rise and run? Exactly, all right? That's exactly what this is. All I really needed to do was go from this point to this point. Up 3 and right 5. And that is the slope, Okay, so it's all related, folks. Everything that we've been doing all kind of ties together. Now, I started off with this question because it was on a graph, because that's what we've been talking about. Now, this one was not linear, obviously. This one was not a straight line, but slope works the same way when we're trying to go from one point to the next. Now, we're not always going to be able to do this because sometimes we're going to be given a table. All right, so I did the first one so to show you how this is all related to the graph. Now let's talk about it in terms of a table. We're only doing one of each, so there's only two more questions or two more examples after that, so please stay with me. Once again, we have a function h of x that is given in the table, and we want to find the average rate of change over this interval. Don't make this compound inequality any more difficult than it is. It's just saying that I have an x value of 2 and a x value of 6, and we need to come up with the y values. Okay? The good news is we have a table of not just 2 points, but of 4 points. So 2 are good and 2 are unneeded. Well, I don't need 0, 10, and I don't need 4, 6, because I need the point 2, 9 and the point 6, 3. Okay, so 2, 9 and 6, 3. So there you have it. Remember that this is always an ordered pair. And where do we come up with the numbers? This was the first point in the chart. This was the second point in the chart. So in order to kind of simplify this, you got to find those 2 points. And once you find the 2 points, the rest of this is just plugging it into the formula that we saw at the beginning of the notes. So let's get that formula down. y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. We've already got it labeled, and let me tell you, labeling this saves you a huge headache of trying to figure out where everything goes. But 3 minus the 9, all right, y2 minus y1, and then 6 minus the 2. Good thing everything was positive this time. So in this case, 3 minus 9 was negative 6. 6 minus 2 was simply 4. So there is your slope, negative 6 over 4, also known as your average rate of change. Any questions, please let me know. I don't know if GoGuardian is a little bit behind or if not everyone's with us. So if you're still completing the quizzes, please stop. I only have one more example left, and that is it. The rest of this time will be for work time, but this is the part that you need in order to be able to complete the practice assignments. Yeah, looks like GoGuardian is struggling right now. All right, but hopefully Canvas is still working. We got one thing going for us. All right, last and final one. This is it, folks. We wanted to try and figure out the slope formula, the average rate of change for the following function. So this time they give us an entire function with the x squared plus 3 expression. And we want to find the average rate of change from -1 to 3. So when x was -1 and when x is 3. Again, I'll kind of set this up. We know the x value for this point. We know the x value for that point. And we need to come up with the y values. Now, how in the world are we going to do that? We've done this before. All we have to do is use the function, all right, to find the output. So way back in September, we took an x value and substituted it in. And wherever we saw x, we replaced x. Okay? Remember, with negatives, we want to use those parentheses because this is -1 times -1. So that would make good old-fashioned 1. And then we would just add 3. So this would end up as 1 plus 3 for 4. So not too complicated, but again, going through that process of evaluating a function. We could finish this up by simply saying this was the x value, and so therefore that was the y value. So here is our point, -1 and 4. Do that one more time, this time when f is 3. They told us the x values, they gave us the function, it was up to us to figure out what the y value was. Now we don't have to use parentheses when it's positive, not a bad habit to stay in though, okay? We've got 3 times 3 for 9, 9 plus 3 would make 12. So this would be f of 3, with this being x and this being y. All right, so we put it into our points, 3, 12. And we've got the 2 points that we need, the 4 values that go into the formula. Here's x, here's y, here's x, here's y. Here's the first one, here is the second one. Okay, after that, look back up at the top of the notes if you need to for the formula y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. All right. Now I could have given you the fancy one for this. I don't talk about this very often. It is on your notes. I'm just going to simply write this down for you to see that this is exactly the same, okay? This is the y2 value. This is the y1 value. Here is the x2 value here and the x1 value. They all are kind of the same. It's just you can kind of see where they came from, okay? So if you're having trouble with that formula, which I don't typically use because the slope formula is the same, just let me know and we can have a separate conversation about it. But basically we're going to do 12 minus 4, and then we're going to do 3 minus a -1. It ends up giving us 12 minus 4 for 8. Double negative here, so 3 plus 1 is 4. 8 divided by 4 is in fact 2. Your average rate of change. All right,